Welcome everybody. We're going to do a wedge education today. We are going to do a fitting with John, and we're filming it, and so we're going to explain everything that goes on in what we do for a wedge fitting, so that you know that when you come out for your wedge fitting, you know what to expect. So the first thing that we asked John to do is we were asking him to hit his pitching wedge, and we want to know how far his pitching wedge actually goes so that we can start to gap everything out from there. So John says that his pitching wedge goes about 140 yards. He actually has brand new Ping Blueprint irons. I think that the wedge is going a little bit shorter today due to the dampness of the air. Maybe it's a little heavy air. So we're going to have him hit one real quick, and we're measuring it out roughly right around 130 yards so far. So John, so how far does a wedge go for you when you actually are playing golf today?
About 140 yards.
140 yards. So as you are playing, do you notice that you take deep divots or shallower divots?
I take very deep divots.
Okay, so that makes a big difference when we're asking a player what kind of divot patterns they have. When you hit good shots, do you see the ball working from right to left or left to right or fairly straight?
Right to left ball flight is usually where I go to.
Okay, so as he's working the ball from right to left, this gives us an opportunity to check out divot patterns. And now we're going to gap. So we have he hits a pitching wedge 140 yards. So the first clubs that we're going to start going with is, I know that his pitching wedge is 46 degrees. It's 46 degrees. So we are going to go with something in between so we can gap him in from there. Okay, so the first thing we're going to try, since you have a 46 degree wedge, we're going to try you with the 50 degree wedge. And this has a 12 degree bounce. It's a full bounce. And so that you may notice that it levels out when you take a divot here. So let's see how it goes real quick. The yardage that you kind of come up with a lot, that if you have 140, what do you struggle with in your golf game? What yardage and short of that?
Probably the 120, the 80 to 120.
So you find 80 to 120 is the yardage that you get a lot of. So are you able to knock down a pitching wedge to like a 130 yard shot, or do you want something that goes full swing 120?
I'm more of a full swing 120 kind of guy. I don't like to hit easy shots.
Okay, so his 50 degree just went roughly about 130 yards, 125. We're going to give him a 52 now, and we're going to see what that actually does as he goes to swing this one. He's already scoped this out. He's flying that probably about downhill, just fraction, probably 125. So on a flat, nice day, he's going in there about 120 yards. So if you zoom in on his divot pattern, you can see that it is a little deep. So we're going to give him as much bounce as possible. Bounce is what is from the leading edge to the back edge. This is considered the bounce of the club. The bigger the bounce, the more that the club is going to level out as soon as it hits turf. If it had no bounce, this thing would dig very deep for John. So we're going to give him something that has full bounce, and we're going to be roughly at 52 degrees for that wedge that he needs. Our next one is going to be something that he can hit around the, if he's going 120, I need to get him something that he can go 105, 100, 95 right in there. So our next wedge is going to be roughly somewhere around 56 degrees, and we're going to hand those to him here in a second. 3 different wedges here, all have different bounces on it. One has 12 degrees, one has 8, and one has 14. Now, when you're hitting a 56 degree wedge, what kind of shots do you like? Do you open up the face with it? Is it always straight face? Do you like to manipulate the face at all?
It's more of a straight face kind of club, because I can usually bring in a 60, and that's when I open the face.
Okay, so when you're pitching a shot around a green, are you going to use just 56, 60, or is it always straight face?
I usually use a 60 degree when I'm around the green.
Okay, so the first thing, we know that he has deep divots, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to give him something that has full relief. So we're looking at something that has a large bounce, and we're going to see how this levels out in the turf. for fitting purposes, we would give him multiple wedges. We would sit here and go, and we would see and ask him questions about, so on turf contact, how did that feel when it hit the turf? Did it feel like it leveled out? Did it feel like it continued to dig?
It felt like it was leveling out better than the previous wedge I hit.
Okay, so we would ask him these certain questions, and if he, and then we would get to a wedge that actually works for him the proper way for these kinds of shots. So right now, to speed up the process here, we're going to go to the next fitting of which would be what's important to John is a 60 degree. He hits it in multiple areas, so we're going to go with a couple different shots and see how far he hits it, and then if he can actually pitch a ball and make it go up in the air or not properly. Okay, so I have three 60 degree wedges here. One is called an M grind. It has 8 degrees of bounce, but it has full relief in the back. John just told me that he likes to open up the face a lot when he's pitching around the greens. The other one has a D grind. It has 12 degrees of bounce. So with this club right here, he may bottom out a little too much on greenside shots, but it might be really good for full shots. But this other one may be just as good for full shots and also greenside. The last one, which will be interesting to watch John hit, this thing only has 4 degrees of bounce. This thing's going to actually dig a little bit, but would give him full effect around the greens like he likes. But I think that he would struggle if he was in greenside bunker, heavy grass. So first one we're going to have him swing is the 4 degree bounce, and we'll see what the divot pattern's like. This is the 4 degree bounce wedge that John just hit. Very deep divot, so it really digs into the turf. There's not much relief once it enters turf. So we're going to see what a bigger bounce does for John as he swings the next one. His divot was a little bit shallower, not much, but now we're going to give him the one that has the biggest amount of relief to see what his divot pattern is. But we also have to make sure that he can hit this from around the green and do the shots that he likes to hit as well once we get the right bounce on this club. On a full length shot of the 3, so we have 4 degree bounce, big divot, 8 degree bounce, kind of a bigger divot, and we have one that leveled out, which was the largest bounce. On the turf contact, which one did you feel that leveled out the best for you?
The last one with the most bounce.
The most bounce. Okay, so as he goes to hit this shot, we're going to see if he can actually hit the little shots that he likes to hit right here on the turf and off of tight lies. But it is also, it's harder because he has a full bounce on this club. So we're going to ask him to hit one more shot for us, and then we're going to switch around with a different club. Next one is we're going to go with the M grind, which is an 8 degree bounce, to see how he does with this one. First thing that I noticed is that our D grind, which had the most bounce, which was great for a full shot, wasn't great for his little flop shot that he wanted to hit. The 8 degree bounce, he was able to skim that across the ground and was able to elevate it like he would normally do. So in the wedge fitting process, the next thing we would do is we would go out to the fairway and we would hit little pitch shots, and this is what we do for you as the member. But the other thing was we would go out and hit bunker shots as well. But for time purposes, we have a pretty good idea what John needs. His gapping is 52, 56, and 60. He's pretty traditional. He doesn't need something that goes 130 yards. He actually has more shots that he believes needs to go 120 yards. So that's why the 52 degree was better than the 50 degree. And then we kind of base it off of that. I don't know John's game the world's greatest. I don't play with him, but I also have to take on his word that if he thinks that he has a lot of 120 yard shots, then that's what we're going to start to gap him with. So John is a full grind kind of guy because of his divot patterns, but some folks are something a little bit different, and we have all different options. So as we go into the wedge fitting process, let me grab a couple of those. Every company makes a great wedge. TaylorMade, MG2s, they have a face that you peel this off and only the face rusts. It produces just as much spin as anything else, but they also tote that when the ball or the club face gets wet, they still produce twice as much spin as any other wedge. Vokey, SM8, what John is hitting. This is the newest wedge from Titleist. We have these in the pro shop. You can get fit for them. This is what we've been fitting John with. The other wedges that we carry is Cleveland RTX 4s. This is the newest wedge from Cleveland. They have multiple bounces, and we also carry these. Ping, you know, for our ping enthusiasts, they have the new Glide 3.0. As you can see, it's a little wider. It has cavity back capability, so it's a little bit more forgiving than other wedges. Helps get the ball in the air. Really good around the greens for those who really have a hard time maybe hitting behind the ball or having a hard time getting out of a bunker. And the last is the high toe. This is also a TaylorMade club. It's really good. As you can see, it has grooves all the way up the face, which is different than the other companies, which it also helps raise the center of gravity. This ball is going to come out a little bit lower, has a full grind to it. So these are all different options that we can fit you for your short game. If you have any questions, please contact us in the pro shop. Please schedule your wedge fitting. You hit that driver 14 times around, 13 times at our club. You hit these wedges way more, and we want to make sure that we help your golf game get better.